welcome to the Mornings with Matt Career Podcast. Today I'm joined by Amanda Round. Amanda is a content creator with 80,000 followers on TikTok. Amanda creates content to help motivate students to succeed. She joins us today to share tips and tricks about leveraging transferable skills to land your next role, securing research positions and jobs in the sciences, productivity hacks, and advice for aspiring content creators and entrepreneurs. If you like what you hear and want to learn more, check out our website at morningswithmattp.com, follow us on Instagram and TikTok at morningswithmattp, or follow Matt Parkin on LinkedIn. Thanks for joining us today, Amanda.
Of course.
Awesome. So to kick things off, let's talk a little bit about your past experience. So you worked as a receptionist, a camp counselor, a soccer coach, and a referee. Those are very, common jobs that a lot of students will have growing up. How are you able to leverage those experiences to get your start in marketing and PR?
I think the best things that those jobs taught me at an early age were the values of connections. I got all those jobs by knowing someone. So that receptionist job was at a family-owned physiotherapy that I went to as a kid, and they knew me. I would talk to them when I would go in for appointments because I was a soccer player and I got injured very easily. And they just referred me. They were like, hey, we need someone to come in on Fridays. Can you do that? And that was my first ever job. I think I was like 13 or 14. I'm not sure how legal that was, but it was a great way to kind of understand that, oh, hey, someone's offering me a job just because they know me and they like me. And that's what kind of happened with the soccer referee and coaching as well. I was the captain of my team. A lot of people in that community knew me. So I was given the opportunity. And obviously, it takes a little bit more than knowing people. You have to actually be qualified for the job, or at least present as though you're qualified for the job. But early on, that taught me that, hey, you can make your way just by knowing people. So that was one of them. It's also valuable just to know how to interact. And that sounds really basic, but at a young age, being able to make a phone call cold turkey and schedule someone for an appointment is big. I remember being afraid to do that at 13. And I remember talking to some friends at about 17, 18, when they got their first high school jobs, being in similar situations and being nervous about it. And for me, that was like an experience 5 years ago. So having that early on can really set you up to kind of take on higher positions, like maybe be a manager, or just, it'll be easier to be in those types of positions.
That's really funny. You mentioned the calling people when you were young. I worked at a summer camp for a few years, and we would have to do these camper calls where we would have to get a list of phone numbers and call the parents and remind them of what the kids had to bring to camp for the next week. And, when I was younger, I was kind of nervous to do that, but now, I'm working in sales. I'm calling people all the time, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's really funny how those kind of early stage jobs can really set you up for success in the future.
Yeah, it's a really good life skill. I was also a camp counselor, like you mentioned, but didn't mention that job because I hated it so much. I got laryngitis like 4 times in one summer. It was awful. That job taught me that a valuable experience, a negative experience, can be as valuable as a positive one in jobs as well, because I hated it and I never wanted to do it again. I like kids, but like taking care of them for 8 to 9 hours a day, not for me.
And sometimes you need to have those kinds of roles, right? Where you're not really enjoying yourself to help you kind of figure out what you want to do afterwards. And speaking of that, you kind of shifted into the earth and environmental science space. So what prompted that, and what kind of drew you to that area?
So it's funny that you say that, because initially I thought I was going to do biology, pre-med type of vibe. Most science students in first year think they're going to do that. And I talk about that a lot on my TikTok. I have so many videos that went viral because I was talking, like making jokes about that. So I thought I was going to do that. But then in going into second year, I realized, hey, like I grew up on David Attenborough. I grew up loving documentaries. My friends always kind of made fun of me because I never was allowed to watch SpongeBob, like no shows like that. I literally just had Nat Geo Kids and I loved it. I never would have changed it. That's what I grew up on, whatever. So I was like, let me give this a go. I love environmental sciences. I love like geology because there's so much like history. I love history, but from like a scientific perspective. So geology is amazing for that because you get geography, anthropology, like culture, all that type of stuff. And then also really scientific and technical stuff like what's it called? I was going to say geophysics, structural geology, stuff like that. Like that's pretty intense and it's cool. I haven't taken the course yet. And the reason why I'm not going to is because I took that in second year. And although I liked it, I've decided to change again. So I'm actually going to go unconcentrated. In my program, we have our major, which is integrated science, and then we concentrate. So we take like a special case of interest type of thing. And I was in earth environmental sciences, and now I'm going to go unconcentrated and minor in statistics and physics because literally, why not? I really enjoy science, but I feel as though I love all aspects of science. So I don't want to be confined to just earth and environmental.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's very helpful early on, whether you're in your career or at school, to kind of take that generalist approach, right? Instead of getting really good at one specific thing, getting, decently good or enough exposure to 5 or 10 different things. And I think that can, especially from an employment standpoint, that can make you a lot more employable if you're going into a role and doing more of a generalist kind of thing, instead
Yeah.
of going super, super niche right in your first role after graduation.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something helpful for students to think about when they're either choosing to major or to not major, or going into fields right after post-secondary. So speaking of looking for jobs, a lot of science students typically will look for research positions. So do you have any tips for students that are looking to land research positions?
I think the best way to do that, the easiest way, and the way where you probably won't have as much trouble is to talk to professors that you already know, professors who you've already taken classes from, and professors who you might be, I don't want to say friends with, but buddies with. It's much easier to get a position if you go to them and go, hey, I'm looking to do this, that, and the other. And if they don't have a position available at the time, they can refer you to someone else in their network who might have a similar opening. So I think that's your best bet. But, a lot of us with COVID and such haven't been able to get out as much and interact and network in those ways. So your best bet, if you don't have anyone that pops into your mind as I'm talking about that, is probably to go cold turkey and just look up professors in your area or at your school whose research you're interested in. Like, you really have to be interested in it. Otherwise, your job, it's going to suck. You're going to hate it. So find someone you're interested in, reach out to them, and make sure you're doing this with a few people, not just like 2 or 3, but like I'd say minimum 10, because you're going to get rejections for like 9 out of 10 of them. Make your odds better. Go 20 if you can. But reach out, tell them what you like specifically about their work, what you're interested in doing, and attach your CV or resume and say, I would love to help you out if you have any positions available. Obviously, it's not ideal. It'd be better if you could talk to them, but situations aren't always ideal.
No, absolutely. I think that's really helpful advice, and very, very cool to see that networking theme kind of play out throughout your experience, right? Especially early on in the hourly type of jobs and leading into the research space as well. I talk a lot on LinkedIn about networking and how it's helpful for landing a job, a lot of times in the business realm, but it's also very relevant in the science realm as well.
It is even more relevant in some cases, in my opinion. And a lot of STEM students, they hear like networking and they're just like, oh, business students, in one ear, out the other. All of the students that I know who have positions have it because they know someone, and that's it. So yeah, network if you can. Get your name out there. Somehow get your name out there, unless it's in a bad way. You don't want that.
No, absolutely. I've heard, I have a couple of friends in med school, and they've mentioned it's helpful too to network in terms of getting, preferred residency placements and that kind of thing. So yeah, no, that's helpful. And do you have any advice for aspiring entrepreneurs who are interested in creating content or starting their own side hustles? What are some things that have worked well for you?
I think I got lucky a bit at the start. I always say this around my parents, they're like, no, like you worked hard. Like, yes, I did. But I also got onto a platform at a good time. And I think if you're an entrepreneur who wants to be like a content creator or something like that, The space has really changed. It was like YouTube in the early years when in 2016, if you posted a YouTube video, you could go viral. You could become Justin Bieber and go viral overnight and have all these cult followers. TikTok used to be like that, honestly, but the algorithm has changed. It's a lot harder to get followers. So you really, really, really have to niche down. And I feel like that's good advice for anything, though. Know who your audience is, because if you want to be an entrepreneur in the social media space or at any point, you need to provide a product, whether that's what you're creating or like you as a person and your content. So I say niche down, figure out who your audience is, and figure out how best to access them. It was easier for me because I'm a student, so I know what a student wants to see for the most part. But yeah, I'd say niche down, and then try and talk to people in your in what you're doing as well. I have a few friends who do social media, and it's reassuring to talk to them about stuff because it's so easy to get caught up in the numbers, and that can happen for any type of business. You kind of lose sight of what you started for.
No, that makes a ton of sense. I think when you're focused on looking at the numbers and in tandem trying to focus on your niche, it's very hard, right? Because I find even for myself sometimes, the more niche specific educational type of videos will get way fewer views
Oh yeah.
than the, copying a viral trend that maybe isn't super relevant to your niche, but is going to get a lot of eyeballs on it, right? And when you're thinking from an entrepreneurial perspective and you're wanting to have the most impact or make the most money, whatever you're trying to do with your business, I think it's helpful to focus on that niche, because even if you have
Yes.
a tenth of the views on a video, if it's more niche down, you're probably going to see a way higher increase in conversions on whatever you're selling.
Yeah, funny that you mentioned that. That brings up a really good point because I made a TikTok recently saying how someone else in my niche who had about 1 million followers, their video views were way less than mine, like by tenfold on certain videos, like the average video view. And this also goes to like bat with brand deals. I had 2 brand deals come in today. I have at least come like around this time because back to school, I swear like 10 a week, NDAs, all that. And it's because of how niche down I am. It doesn't matter that like the numbers of how many followers does not matter. And the same can be said with a different type of business. If you're looking at social media, if you're answering a need in some way with a specific audience, it really doesn't, like those big numbers don't matter. So I completely agree with you on that. Like if you're hitting who you need to hit, you're done, you're good.
Absolutely. I think it ties into a couple cold emails I've gotten recently too. There'll be people emailing you saying, "Oh, we can increase your lead
Oh
generation
yeah.
as a coach and book you 200 meetings a month." And it's like, okay, but are those 200 meetings even going to be in my niche? Like, are they even going to be high quality? Probably not, right?
Yeah. It's the whole, it's a new culture of just more. And I say that as if I don't fall into it. I do. Like that whole thing about just doing a trend, it almost feels degrading that I can plan out a video for like a day and make a script and have it informed and like researched down to a T. I've consulted with professors for videos at some points, and those things get like maybe 10,000, 20,000 views. And I do a funny little school's hard TikTok, 5 seconds, 1 million views. Like, yeah, I know what you're saying. It's a lot, and it's hard to balance because you want all those views because it can bring in more people to see the quality content. But then it's like, where do you stop? So
Yeah. And speaking of stopping and starting, do you have any productivity hacks for managing your time with everything you've got on the go?
yeah, so that's one that my answer changes on that all the time because in first year for me, I had everything literally scheduled down to a T. And while I did get things done, a lot of it wasn't high quality, and it left me feeling pretty bad, honestly, because I would look at everything that I checked off during the day and I just didn't feel anything. So I got to a point where I was more just like intuitively doing what I need to get done. And for me, it's a hyperactive thing. I need to be busy all the time. And this goes for a lot of people. That's the only reason why I'm saying it. But like, that's a psychological block that I think a lot of people need to get over, because now that I've, sorted my stuff out, talked to some professionals about it, I've learned that like slowing down has actually really helped me with content and doing work, because I don't always feel like I have something to do. So I have time to sit and like actually think and come up with ideas. And that's something that's been great with my job. When I'm in the field, sometimes we're literally like range testing or something. We're sitting on a boat in silence for like 9 hours, and I'm just sitting there thinking. And it's beautiful and it sounds ridiculous, but you don't get the time to do that anymore. So that's terrible for productivity. It's like the antithesis of what people want to hear. But to be productive, I would say slow down completely, almost to a halt, and things will kind of work itself out and you'll see what's really important and you can go from there.
That's really great advice. I saw a couple of posts in the last week about people who have like come up with multi-million-dollar business ideas when they were out for a walk or on a fishing trip, because like you said, you have that time to kind of think and sit back and relax. And so it's really, really helpful, to take breaks, but not to just, sleep or watch Netflix, to actually like take time to be awake and be present and think through, whatever is on your mind.
Yeah, and I came up with a project that I've wanted to do for a couple years, kind of smoothed that out in my mind while I was there. I felt so great about it. So yeah, take some time to not think and you'll end up figuring out life. You'll be able to answer all of life's big questions.
Thank you for all of your advice today, Amanda. Really, really appreciate it. And if you're looking for some answers to more of life's questions, you might want to stay tuned to next week's episode. If you found this episode helpful, we'd love if you can leave a review and share it with a friend. If you want to learn more, check out our website at morningswithmattp.com. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at morningswithmattp, or follow Matt Parkin on LinkedIn. See you next week.